Okay, this game is Bilek versus Tal, played in 1967. Bilek playing white, played knight f3, so quiet first move. Tal replied knight f6, so symmetrical. Now g3. Now here Tal was quite aggressive in gaining space on the queen side quite rapidly. He played b5, so he's preparing a queen bishop fianchetto to challenge white's fianchettoed bishop. And now e6, d3, and now d5. So he's deliberately blocking in his own bishop. He just wants to perhaps continue with c5 later. So it's a sort of gaining queenside space plan, which one normally wouldn't associate with the likes of Tal, who you'd think would go for a kingside attack. But he can play positionally, and this really is about queenside space, which later converts into a very dangerous passed pawn, as we'll see. So here Tal has got the better of the space on the queen side, and he continues his pressure now with queen b6. So he's exerting some pressure on d4. White's position is a little bit passive, but potentially black is risking getting an isolated d pawn here. And white does take advantage of that. White captures away from the centre, so this isolated d pawn here is potentially a problem. Tal recaptures with bishop takes c5, and white plays knight b3, which is quite a nifty manoeuvre to try and blockade the d pawn. Here Tal just calmly plays rook fe8, and now he immediately liberates this potential liability by playing d4, so it frees black's game up. And also there's this potential of this bishop as well after these exchanges. Because white hasn't connected rooks, black's getting away with just quickly dissolving this pawn. So queen f5 now, which leaves the rook only defended by the knight. Tal exploits this. He does recapture. He does capture on e1. So white's having to play this passive recapture. So white's pieces are not really that aggressively placed at the moment. They're quite passive. So Tal plays rook e8. Again, he's got all the better pieces now. His bishop's immune. Obviously, this knight's got to move. But so after the knight moves, yes, he has to do something now about this. So he moves the bishop back to d6. It is unpre from the queen and knight. So he moves it back to d6 and doesn't mind now that the d pawn seemingly being unpre. And there's a key reason why. If we have a look at if white did play, say, knight b takes d4, let's have a quick look at this. It would really unleash this bishop, as we're going to see. Knight takes d4, now say c takes d4, and now here Tal would have had bishop e4, which is cunningly, letting the queen be extra pressure on this diagonal. So say the white queen now moves to g5, then queen c6. And my analytical assistant reckons black's getting to be a lot better here. White's still passive. Say, for example, knight h4, then bishop g2, knight g2, rook e2, and there's a lovely rook on the 7th rank now, and black's a lot better here. So this was quite an interesting idea by Tal. But white played actually bishop g5 here, so he wasn't tempted to take this pawn here. Now Tal played knight e4. Now this is a slightly dodgy move when looked under the microscope. But first let's have a look at the game continuation and come back to this later. White played rook e1. And now we see Tal playing knight e7, attacking white's queen. Now bishop e7, and now g6, so not an immediate recapture on e7. So the queen has to go somewhere more passive, so it goes to h3. So here Tal could just take the bishop back, but he does an unusual, a surprise move. He does d takes c3 here, temporarily being a piece down. But here we see the power of these the passed pawn. After rook takes e4, c takes b2. So Tal is a lot of material down, but he's immediately going to win one of his pieces back. After rook e1 to defend against the queening pawn, Tal plays rook e7. So he's only a piece down here, but it's a piece with two pawns, and black's got a lot of pressure now, and this is quite a dangerous, very dangerous passed pawn. So rook b1, and now a4 simply, and so white could be in trouble here. White is in trouble, in fact, here. What white played was knight bd4, a seemingly natural move, and Tal now simply played bishop takes f3. So that after knight takes f3, he now plays rook e2, so not only protecting this dangerous passed pawn, but f2 is a serious liability here from the queen and rook. So it's very dynamically played, a piece down, but white, has great difficulty defending this. White played rook f1 to try and defend, but then Tal now played an excellent move, really exploiting his trumps in the position, especially this pawn. I'll give you 5 seconds to see if you can see it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Tal played rook takes f2. So he's using a pin tactic, because after rook takes f2, this pawn would be free to queen. White, in desperation, played queen c8, which is futile, king g7, and now there's horrible discover checks threatened. White just played now queen c3 check, but after f6, the position is just completely lost. Because if rook takes f2, b1 queening, and there's no defence against this. Let's just say rook b1, where would the discover check be? Rook takes f3, just winning the queen. So rook takes f3 check, and discover check, winning the queen. So in this position, after f6, white actually just resigned here. Now let's have a quick, brief look at what opportunity white may have missed. Nevertheless, this game still won the Brilliancy Prize. So if there was a flaw, this is only because of modern technology, modern analysis. Here, in this position, maybe in this position after knight e4, there was an opportunity perhaps for white to play queen d7 here, and this could have been uncomfortable for black. For example, the rook something has to be done about the rook. So king f8, and now knight takes d4, leaving the bishop and pre. Might have been possible because there's a lot of pressure on c6. So if knight takes d4, after knight takes g5, white would have had bishop takes b7 and been fine here. This looks fine, there doesn't seem to be a problem. So this was one missed opportunity by white to an otherwise, perfect game by black. Anyway, so let's go back to the final position and just admire this rook takes f2. So here is where white resigned. So it's another excellent game by Tal, which was awarded the Brilliancy Prize.